Chapter 1. The Man Who Felt Nothing. You don't wake up screaming. You don't collapse on the floor. You just live, slightly dead inside. You go to work. You answer emails. You send the right emojis in the group chat. You say, "I'm fine," when someone asks how you are, and you even add a little laugh so they don't worry. On paper, you're okay. Inside, it's like someone turned the volume of your soul down to 1. This is where Daniel lives. Maybe this is where you live too. London, 7:42 a.m. Gray light leaks through half-closed blinds. A phone alarm vibrates on a bedside table, playing the same song it's played every morning for the last 3 years. Daniel reaches out, taps snooze without even opening his eyes. He lies there for a moment, staring at the cracked plaster on the ceiling. No dread, no excitement. Just nothing. His mind doesn't scream, "I hate my life." It just murmurs, "Oh, this again." He gets up, shower, coffee, news in the background, notifications, the familiar scroll of headlines and outrage and memes. His thumb moves automatically across the screen. He doesn't feel much about any of it. He laughs in the right places at the right clips. But if you slowed time down and looked into his eyes, you'd see it. He's not really there. At work, he does his job well enough. He nods in meetings. He writes "great thanks" in the chat. He goes for drinks on Fridays. Sometimes he goes on dates. Sometimes he hooks up. Sometimes he doesn't. It all blurs into one long, muted week. He can't remember the last time he cried. He can't remember the last time he was truly moved by something, down to his bones. If you asked him, "How are you really?" he'd probably smirk and say, "I'm fine, just tired." But that's not the truth. The truth is more dangerous. He's not in pain enough to break, but he's not alive enough to live. And maybe you know this place. The place where you scroll for hours and feel nothing. Where you lie in bed at midnight staring at the ceiling, not panicking, not sobbing, just floating. Where you haven't felt real joy in so long that you've lowered the bar and started calling comfortable numbness your happiness. This is the quiet disease of our time. Not drama, not chaos, numbness. And like many people, Daniel doesn't go looking for help because it doesn't feel like an emergency. It feels like background. So the universe sends help in a different way. It doesn't send him a therapist or a self-help book. It sends him a dojo. Chapter 2. The Teacher of the Quiet Dojo. It starts with a flyer. He finds it stuck under the wiper of his bike outside the office. Aikido and meditation, beginners welcome, small dojo, quiet mind, strong body. He almost throws it away. Then, for no particular reason, he folds it into his pocket. Weeks later, after another weekend lost in Netflix and takeaway, he finds the flyer again. He's standing in his kitchen, staring at his own reflection in the dark window, and he suddenly hears himself think, "I need to do something." Not, "I want to change my life forever." Just something. So on a Tuesday evening, he walks down a narrow side street in London and finds a small door with a simple wooden sign, Hayama Dojo. He pushes the door open. Inside, the world changes. The traffic noise fades behind him. There's a faint smell of tatami mats and incense. The floor is clean. The walls are bare except for a scroll with Japanese calligraphy and a photo of an older man in white robes. A few students are stretching in silence. No loud music, no mirrors, just a wide, open space. And there, standing in the center, is Master Hayama. Gray hair tied low, plain white gi, bare feet solid on the floor. He stands like he has all the time in the world. His eyes are calm, but there's something in them that makes you feel seen in a way you haven't felt in years. First time? Hayama asks. His English is clear, softened by a Japanese accent. Yes, Daniel says. I just thought I'd try something new. Hayama studies him for a brief moment, then nods. Welcome. Class begins. They bow. They practice basic movements. They learn how to fall, how to roll, how to redirect force. Daniel's body feels stiff, but he follows the instructions. His mind, however, remains strangely distant. When Hayama demonstrates a throw, the other students flinch slightly, laugh, breathe loudly. Their faces change with effort. Daniel moves like a ghost. He copies every step perfectly, but his eyes are a few seconds late. He reacts, but from far away, as if he's watching himself through a screen. Hayama notices. After class, when most students have left, Daniel sits on the bench to tie his shoes. Hayama walks over and sits beside him. You moved correctly, the teacher says, but I could not feel you. Daniel forces a polite laugh. I'm just out of shape. Hayama tilts his head. No, your body is here, but your heart... He taps his own chest lightly. Your heart is behind a wall. Daniel freezes for a moment. A wall. He doesn't know why that word hits him so hard. It feels like someone naming something he's been suffering from but never defined. I'm fine, Daniel says automatically. Just stressed. Work, you know? Hayama's eyes soften, but his voice stays steady. In Zen and in the old warrior schools, he says, we call this Kokoro no Kabe, the wall around the heart. Daniel looks at him. It is armor, Hayama continues. At some time it saved your life. It protected your mind and body from storms you could not face as a child. But if you keep this armor on forever... He touches his own ribs gently, as if he can feel invisible plates of metal there. You cannot be cut, but you also cannot be touched. The dojo is quiet. Somewhere outside, a siren passes. Inside, time stretches. Hayama stands. If you come back, he says, we do not only train the body here, we train the heart. We practice breaking little holes in the wall. He bows slightly. Up to you. Then he walks away. Daniel sits there, shoelaces untied, staring at the empty mat. He doesn't know yet, but this is the moment his story starts to shift. Not with fireworks, not with a breakdown, with a simple naming. Kokoro no Kabe. The wall around the heart. Maybe as you listen, you can feel your own wall. Not as a concept, but as a sensation. That invisible distance between you and your own life. This story isn't just about Daniel. It's about you, too. Chapter 3. The armor around the heart. Kage no yoroi. He comes back. Once. Then twice. Then every week. On the outside, it's just another activity in his calendar. But inside, something small is changing. Not a huge transformation, but a tiny crack in the shape of a question. What if something really is wrong with the way I feel? One evening, after an especially silent class, Hayama calls everyone to sit at the edge of the mat. They sit kneeling or cross-legged. The lights are dimmer now. Tonight, he says, we speak about armor. He looks at Daniel for a second, then lets his eyes travel across the whole group. In the old days, he begins, a samurai wore armor that could stop arrows and blades. Heavy, strong. But no warrior would keep that armor on when he returned home. To sleep in armor, to eat in armor, to hold your child in armor, this would be madness. A faint smile crosses his face. Yet many of you here, he continues, are doing exactly that. Not with metal, with something much heavier. He touches his chest. With Kage no yoroi, The shadow armor. Daniel feels a ripple inside. Kage no Yoroi is the armor you cannot see, Hayama says, but your body remembers putting on. For some of you, it began with shouting at home. For some, with bullying. For some, with a parent who was never really there. So you decided you did not need anyone. You were told, stop crying. Don't be dramatic. Be strong. No one likes a sensitive child. His eyes are kind, but his voice cuts cleanly. Your nervous system is intelligent. When pain is too much and too constant, it chooses freeze. It chooses numbness. It says, to survive, I will feel less. He pauses. This is not weakness. This is genius. This is your brain and body saving your life. He looks at Daniel again, and this time Daniel can't look away. But what protects you when you are 8? He raises one finger. Will imprison you when you are 30. The room is silent. Outside, London hums. Inside, hearts listen. This is the first pillar of Kokoro no Kabe, Hayama says. Kage no Yoroi, the shadow armor. You must see it clearly. You must understand when and why you put it on. He points to a small notebook by the wall. Tonight, I give you a simple assignment. For 1 week, write 10 minutes each evening. Not about your day, about your past. Ask yourself, when did I decide it was safer not to feel? Notice the memories, the words people said. The day you stopped crying, the day you stopped asking for help. He folds his hands. Do not judge the child you were. He did his best. You survived. Bow to that. Later that night, Daniel is back in his apartment. The city glows outside his window. He opens a blank document on his laptop. For a moment, his fingers hover over the keys. He feels silly, dramatic. Then he writes, when did I decide it was safer not to feel? At first, nothing comes. Then the memories start to arrive. His parents' fights behind thin walls. His mother crying in the kitchen while he stood there, small and confused, not knowing what to do. His father's voice. Stop crying. Be a man. Your mother needs you to be strong. He sees himself at 8 years old, clenching his jaw, swallowing tears, patting his mother's arm awkwardly. He remembers school. The time he cried because someone destroyed his drawing and the boys laughed, called him princess. The hot shame, the silent vow. Never again. They will never see me care this much again. His chest tightens as he writes. For a moment, his eyes sting, but the tears don't quite come. The old armor is still there, doing its job. But something is different now. He's not just stuck inside the numbness. He's observing it. He's naming it. Kage no Yoroi. You might think this is nothing, just journaling, just words. But understand this. When you can see your numbness as an intelligent survival strategy, you stop hating yourself for it. You stop calling yourself broken or cold. You realize, I didn't become numb because I'm weak. I became numb because I was strong enough to survive. That shift alone is a crack in the armor. Maybe as you listen, certain scenes from your own life are appearing. Times you were told to toughen up. Times you decided it was less painful to shut down than to feel. If they are surfacing, that's not an accident. That's your own Kage no Yoroi coming into focus. And once you see armor, you can decide what to do with it. Chapter 4. The decision to feel. Kansho no Ishi weeks pass. Daniel keeps coming to the dojo. He journals most nights. The armor is no longer invisible. It's a shape he can feel in his chest. A kind of dull pressure that always sits between him and the world. One night, after class, he lingers on the mat, stretching. Hayama approaches, kneels down across from him. You are seeing more now? the master says. Daniel nods. Yeah, I'm seeing how I shut down, why I did it. He gives a small, humorless laugh, but I still feel flat most of the time. Hayama nods slowly. Understanding the armor is the first pillar, he says. But armor does not fall off by being analyzed. It falls off with a decision. A decision? Kansho no ishi, Hayama says. The decision to feel. Daniel feels a quiet resistance rise. I don't know how to just decide to feel. If I could do that, I would have done it years ago. Hayama's eyes are patient. You are thinking of feeling as a switch, he says. On or off. But it is more like opening a window 1 centimeter at a time. He leans in slightly. You must understand something very important, Daniel. You cannot block only the pain. When you numb anger, sadness, fear, your nervous system also numbs joy, love, awe. The part of the brain that turns down bad feelings does not know how to filter. It ducks your head under the whole river. He raises his hand, fingers together, like a blade. Kansho no ishi is the moment you decide. I would rather feel everything than feel nothing, even if it hurts, even if it is messy, even if it makes me cry like a child again. Daniel swallows. The thought terrifies him more than he wants to admit. So how do I practice that? Hayama looks at him with a faint, knowing smile. Not by trying to feel all your trauma at once, he says. Your system would shut down again. No. You train with small cuts. Small cuts? One small area of your life, Hayama says. One small moment where you usually run away. You choose not to. For example, when you feel loneliness rising at night, instead of drowning it in your phone, you sit. You breathe. You say to yourself, I choose to feel this for 3 minutes. Not forever, just 3 minutes. This is Kansho no ishi in action. He pauses. Can you do that? Daniel doesn't answer immediately. He looks down at his hands. He thinks about all the nights he's clicked next episode just to avoid the quiet. 3 minutes. It doesn't sound like much. But for a nervous system that's spent years avoiding discomfort, it's a revolution. I can try, he says. Hayama nods. Your brain has been wired over many years to avoid emotional pain. Every time you felt a wave coming and escaped into distraction, the neural pathways for avoidance got stronger. This is neuroplasticity, your brain changing with repetition. Now, we use the same principle in reverse. Each time you stay with a feeling for a short moment, new pathways grow. You teach your system, it is safe to feel and survive. He stands. Kokoro no Kabe was built 1 brick at a time. You will not dismantle it in 1 night. But tonight, you can remove 1 brick. That night, lying in bed, Daniel reaches for his phone, then remembers. He pauses. Loneliness is there, like a faint ache in his chest. Not a tsunami, just a quiet emptiness. Part of him wants to drown it in scrolling, as usual. But another part, the one that's been listening in the dojo, whispers, 3 minutes. So he puts the phone face down. He sets a timer. At first, it feels pointless. He just lies there, staring at the ceiling, breathing. The emptiness spreads, becomes more noticeable. His chest feels tight. His mind starts to narrate. This is stupid. Nothing's happening. You're just lying here feeling weird. He notices the thoughts, but he doesn't move. After a minute, the feeling changes. It doesn't disappear. It shifts. The loneliness starts to feel less like a void and more like a small boy sitting alone on a playground bench, watching other kids play. A memory flickers. He sees himself, age 9, staying late at school because his parents forgot the time. Everyone else has been picked up. He sits on the steps, hugging his backpack, pretending not to care. His eyes prickle. Again, the tears don't quite fall, but something in him softens. The timer rings. 3 minutes. He picks up his phone. He could numb out now if he wanted, but he doesn't feel the same urgent pull. That night, he sleeps a little deeper. Kansho no Ishi is not dramatic. No one claps. No one sees. It is the private moment where you choose the discomfort of feeling over the false safety of numbness. Maybe for you, it's not loneliness at night. Maybe it's anxiety before a conversation, shame after a mistake, grief you keep pushing down. What would your 3 minutes be? Where could you say tonight, I will not abandon myself for just a little while? This is how windows begin to open. Chapter 5. The Triple Practice, Sansho no Keiko. As weeks turn into months, Hayama begins to teach a more structured path. One evening, he draws 3 simple circles on a whiteboard in the dojo. Your numbness, he says, is not only in your thoughts. It lives in 3 places: body, memory, and relationship. To melt the wall, we train in all 3. This is Sansho no Keiko, the triple practice. He points to the first circle. First, the body. When you numb emotions, he explains, you also numb sensations. The nervous system's freeze response is like turning everything down. To feel again, you must teach the body that sensation is safe. Not just pleasant ones, all of them. He gives them simple assignments. Cold water on the face each morning, just for 30 seconds, noticing the shock without panicking. Slow breathing for 5 minutes a day, counting the exhale longer than the inhale to reassure the vagus nerve. You are safe. Barefoot walking on grass or floor, paying attention to each contact point. These are not spiritual tricks, he says. They are signals to your nervous system. You are telling your body, we are here. We can feel this and survive. He taps the second circle. Second, memory. Daniel tenses slightly. When you have lived through chaos or emotional neglect, Hayama says, your brain learns to store memories like locked boxes, too overwhelming to open, so they are pushed away. But they do not disappear. They leak into the present as numbness, as fear of intimacy, as constant, I'm fine. He does not ask them to dive into trauma alone. Find a safe way, he says. A therapist, a wise friend, even these pages. He lifts a notebook. Look gently at one memory at a time. You do not have to relive it fully. Just acknowledge, this happened. It hurt. I survived. I am allowed to feel something about it now. He points to the third circle. Third, others. Emotional numbness is not only your private prison, it also keeps people at a distance. You smile, you joke, but no one gets in. To melt the wall, you must practice being honest with at least one person. Not with everyone online, one person in front of you. He smiles slightly. Once a week, have one honest conversation. Not perfect, just a little more real than usual. Say, I actually feel lonely, or I'm more anxious than I let on, or I haven't felt much of anything lately, and it scares me. He looks at the class. This will feel like standing naked in battle. But remember, the armor you are removing is shadow. It is not you. For Daniel, Sansho no Keiko becomes a quiet rhythm. In the mornings, he splashes cold water on his face, breathing through the shock. At first, he curses under his breath. Then he starts to enjoy the clarity that follows. He feels awake even for a moment. On the tube, he practices slow breathing, lengthening his exhale. Heart rate down, shoulders drop. For a few stops, he's not scrolling. He's actually in his body, Once a week, he sets aside time to open one memory. Sometimes it's with his therapist, whom he finally books after months of hesitation. Sometimes it's alone, with headphones and a pen. He doesn't dive into the worst of it all at once. He just cracks doors. The night Dad didn't come home. The day Mum said she was fine when she clearly wasn't. The time I was humiliated in front of the class. He lets the images come. If the feelings get too strong, he returns to his breath, to his body, a bridge between past and present. And once a week, he has an honest conversation. The first time, it's with a close friend at a pub. The noise around them is loud, but there's a moment of quiet between topics, and Daniel hears himself say, "Can I tell you something without you trying to fix it?" His friend blinks. "Sure." "I haven't really felt much in years," Daniel says. "Like real feelings. I'm working on it, but it's weird. I look fine, but I feel like I'm behind glass all the time." His face flushes. He expects a joke, a deflection. Instead, his friend looks at him with surprise and relief. "Mate," he says, leaning in. "Same." They talk for an hour. Not about solutions, about shared numbness, shared fears. Daniel leaves that night feeling something he hasn't felt in a long time. Not just tolerated, but understood. Neurons fire in new patterns. Old circuits, avoidance, denial, "I'm fine," start to weaken with disuse. This is neuroplasticity in motion, not in a lab, in a life. As you listen, consider, which part of Sancho no Keiko is missing for you? Do you live only in your head, cut off from your body? Do you refuse to look at your past, hoping it will somehow decay on its own? Do you keep every conversation at the level of "it's all good," even when it's not? Remember, the wall around your heart is made of many layers. Body numbness, memory avoidance, emotional isolation. To melt it, you train in all three, slowly, consistently, like a martial art. Chapter 6. The relapse into numbness. Healing is not a straight line. If you expect your journey to feel like a constant upward curve, more feeling, more presence, more aliveness every day, you will think you failed the moment you hit a wall. Daniel hits his wall on a Thursday afternoon. It starts with a phone call. His mother. Her voice is shaky. She tells him his father has had a health scare. Nothing definitive yet. Tests. Hospital. The words come fast, jumbled. Old fear rises in Daniel's chest. For a moment, he feels a raw, childlike panic. I could lose him. Then, almost instantly, the old pattern snaps back. Click, freeze, numb. He goes into efficient mode. He books a train. He arranges work emails. He says all the right things. "It'll be okay, Mum. We'll sort it out. Don't worry." Inside, it's like someone pulled down a steel shutter. On the train, he doesn't practice his breathing. He doesn't feel his feet on the floor. He stares out the window, scrolling, switching between apps with restless fingers. When he reaches his hometown, the hospital smell hits him. His body tenses. Old memories swirl. Visiting relatives, watching monitors beep, pretending to be okay. He sees his father in the bed, hooked to wires. Fear knocks loudly at the door of his chest. The armor slams down harder. He stays 2 days. He is helpful, calm, composed. The doctors say it's not as bad as they feared. Recovery is likely. Everyone compliments Daniel on how strong he is. Inside, he feels almost nothing. Back in London, the numbness stretches on. He stops journaling. He skips the dojo just for this week, then the next. Evenings disappear into screens again. The idea of sitting with his feelings for 3 minutes now seems absurd. Why would he open that door? It's too much. One night he finds himself 4 hours deep into a show he doesn't even like, surrounded by empty containers. He hasn't messaged Hayama in weeks. A familiar old thought whispers, "See, it was all a phase. You thought you could change. You can't. This is who you are. Numb, detached, watching life, not living it." The shame is heavy. But even the shame feels dulled, like it's wrapped in cotton. He's back inside the wall, and this time it feels thicker than ever. You might know this place too. The relapse. The return to old coping mechanisms after a period of progress. You think, "I've ruined everything. I'm back at zero." But here is a truth that can change everything. Relapse doesn't erase your progress. It reveals how deep the old pattern runs and how much awareness you've gained. One evening, there's a knock at Daniel's door. He opens it to find Hayama standing there, wearing his usual calm expression and a simple coat. Daniel freezes, confused. "How did you—" "You stopped coming," Hayama says softly. "I sent a message. You did not answer, so I became old-fashioned." His eyes twinkle very faintly. "I came to see if you were dead." Daniel gives a short, embarrassed laugh. "I'm not dead. Just busy." Hayama steps inside. He looks around the flat, the mess, the dull light from the TV, the empty containers. He doesn't comment. They sit. For a while, neither speaks. The silence is not accusatory. It's spacious. Finally, Daniel says, "My dad got sick. I went home. It was a lot. When I got back, I just couldn't do the whole feeling thing. It's like my brain said, 'Nope, that's enough, back to normal.'" He waits for judgment, for disappointment. Instead, Hayama nods slowly. "Of course," he says. "Your system did what it learned to do in crises. It froze. It put the armor back on." "I feel like I failed," Daniel says quietly. "Like all those months were fake. The moment something real happened, I went straight back to numb." Hayama leans forward slightly, his gaze steady. "You did not fail," he says. "Listen to me carefully. Before you began this path, you were numb and blind. You did not even know you were behind a wall. Now you are numb and aware. That is not nothing. That is already a crack in the wall." Daniel looks up, eyes burning. "Your brain chose the old road under stress," Hayama continues. "That is normal. Those pathways are deep, like a canyon carved by a river for years. But now, there is also a new path. Not as deep yet. A trail. Every time you choose to feel, you walk that trail, and it becomes wider." He gestures gently to the room. "This relapse is not proof that you cannot change. It is proof that the old pattern still tries to protect you. You may even thank it. Then, kindly, you say, 'We are doing things differently now.'" He sits back. "The wall fights hardest when it is about to break," he says. "Do not mistake resistance for truth." A long silence. Something loosens inside Daniel. For the first time in weeks, a tear actually falls, one then another. He doesn't sob, but the armor makes a small, audible crack. "I don't want to live like this anymore," he whispers. Hayama nods. "Then come back," he says simply, "and soon we will speak of the fourth pillar." Chapter 7. The vow beneath the surface. Chika no Chigiri back in the dojo. Something is different. Not outside. The mats are the same. The students are the same. The London rain still taps on the windows. What's different is Daniel's gaze. It's heavier, more serious. He has seen how quickly he can disappear into numbness again. And now he understands. This is not just a habit. It is a life or death pattern for his soul. After class, Hayama calls him to stay. The others leave. The dojo grows quiet. The master walks to a corner and picks up a small candle and a smooth riverstone. He sets them in front of Daniel on the mat. "It is time for the fourth pillar," he says. "Chika no Chigiri," the underground vow. He lights the candle. The small flame flickers, reflecting in his calm eyes. "In the old warrior traditions," he says, "before a dangerous journey, a samurai would make an inner vow, not loud for all to hear, but quiet, underground. A promise to himself, how he will act, who he will be, what he will not abandon, no matter what battle comes." He nudges the stone toward Daniel. "In your path you need such a vow, not about never feeling numb again. That is impossible. The nervous system will always protect you in some way. The vow is about this, that you will not abandon yourself when feelings come." He looks at Daniel with an intensity that cuts through any pretense. "You abandoned yourself for years," he says. "Every time pain came, you left your body, left your heart, disappeared into screens, into pretending. This was the only way you knew. Now you know another way. It is time to promise yourself you will walk it, even when it is hard." He gestures to the stone. "This stone can be your reminder. I want you to speak your vow here, now. It can be simple, from your own words. Then you will carry this stone with you, in your pocket, on your desk. Each time you feel the urge to numb, you touch it and remember." Daniel stares at the stone. It's absurd and sacred all at once. He takes a breath, another. Then quietly, more to himself than to Hayama, he begins, "I vow that I will not abandon myself when I feel something." The words hang in the air. He continues, voice slightly shaking. "When loneliness comes, I will stay. When fear comes, I will stay. When grief comes, I will stay. I might still watch Netflix. I might still scroll. But before I run away, I will at least turn toward myself and say, 'I'm here. I see you.'" His throat tightens. Tears rise more freely this time. "I vow that my heart is no longer the enemy," he whispers. "I won't keep it behind walls forever. I don't know how to do this perfectly, but I vow to keep trying." His vision blurs. For the first time in a long time, he lets himself cry properly. Not a flood, but a steady rain. Hayama waits. When the tears slow, he simply nods. "This is Chika no Chigiri," he says softly. "The vow beneath the surface, not performance, not a post online, a private contract between you and your own heart." He picks up the stone, presses it into Daniel's palm. "Remember," he says, "you will still relapse. You will still feel numb sometimes. But now, there is a part of you that will not leave the room when that happens. The vow holder, the witness." He looks at you now, through Daniel, through the screen. "And you," his voice seems to say, "you who are listening, you too can make such a vow. Quietly. No one has to know. But your heart will know." In that dojo, under the dim lights, something shifts. It's not a Hollywood montage. It's not an instant enlightenment. It's a man in his 30s, in London, holding a small stone and deciding that from this day forward, he will not walk away from himself. That decision, invisible to the world, changes his life. Chapter 8. A life that can finally feel time moves. Not in dramatic leaps, but in small, ordinary days. Emails, commutes, groceries. 1 year passes, then 2. On the surface, Daniel's life doesn't look radically different. He still works in the city. He still has an apartment with cracked plaster on the ceiling. He still has Friday drinks sometimes, still loses a Sunday occasionally to a show. But if you watched closely, you'd see the difference. You'd see him on the tube, closing his eyes for a few stops, practicing his breath instead of always scrolling. You'd see the stone he sometimes turns in his pocket when a difficult feeling rises. You'd see his face when a friend tells him something painful. He doesn't dissociate. He stays present. He still gets overwhelmed. He still has nights where he numbs out. But more often than not, he notices. He feels that moment of choice. I can leave myself right now, or I can stay. And slowly, staying becomes more familiar. One evening, he's at a small concert in a dim venue. A song begins. Simple piano. A voice that carries an ache he can't quite name. In the past, this might have been a pleasant background. Tonight, as the music swells, something inside him cracks open. Memories rise. His mother's tired eyes in the kitchen, his father in the hospital bed, his own lonely teenage years, scrolling in the dark. Tears fill his eyes. He doesn't push them back. He lets them fall quietly in a room full of strangers, feeling the warm tracks on his cheeks. He feels grief and beauty and relief all mixed together. He puts a hand in his pocket, fingers closing around the stone. I'm here, he thinks. I'm with you. Later, a friend turns to him and says, You're different lately. Softer somehow. Warmer? It's like you're more here. Daniel smiles. It's not a boastful smile, not a performance, just a small, grateful recognition. He knows he is still a work in progress. The wall didn't vanish overnight. There are still bricks. There always will be. But now there are also windows, doors, places where life can enter. He can laugh freely from his belly, not just from his throat. He can admit when he's hurt, instead of saying, it's whatever. He can sit with his parents, listen, feel the bittersweet love that was always there, but muted. He is not always happy, but he is alive. And now we turn to you. Maybe as you've listened, you recognized yourself in Daniel. You don't wake up screaming. You don't collapse. You just live slightly dead inside. You scroll and feel nothing. You haven't cried in years, not because you're strong, but because something in you decided long ago that feeling was dangerous. You play your role convincingly. The I'm fine one. The it's all good one. But late at night, when the world quiets, there's a small voice inside that whispers, is this really it? If that's you, hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are armored. Your numbness is not proof of your failure. It is a record of your survival. Kage no Yoroi, the shadow armor, once protected you. Now it is too tight. You can change. Not by forcing yourself to be grateful or be positive. By walking the same path Daniel did, in your own way. First, see your armor. Ask yourself, when did I decide it was safer not to feel? Let the memories come. Not to drown in them, but to understand. Second, make kansho no ishi, the decision to feel. Not forever. Just for small windows. 3 minutes with your loneliness. 3 minutes with your anger. 3 minutes not running away. Third, begin sansho no keiko, the triple practice. 1 small act for your body. A cold splash, a slow breath, a walk where you actually feel your feet. 1 small act for your memory. Writing about a past moment and acknowledging, that hurt. I survived. 1 small act with another person. 1 honest sentence this week about how you really are. And finally, when you're ready, make your chika no chigiri, your underground vow. It doesn't have to be poetic. It can be as simple as, I vow that I will not abandon myself when I feel something. Write it down. Whisper it to yourself. Put it in your phone background. Give yourself a small object, a ring, a stone, a bracelet, to touch when you're tempted to escape. You will relapse. You will go numb again. You will binge watch, overwork, overeat, overscroll. When that happens, do not say, "I've ruined everything." Say, "I noticed. Before I didn't." That is already a crack in the wall. This is how a frozen river begins to thaw. Not all at once, but in small breaks of ice, patches of moving water, the quiet sound of life returning. You do not have to become someone else. You only have to become someone who stays with themselves. So tonight, when this video ends, don't just nod and move on. Look at your life and ask, where do I feel most numb? When do I abandon myself? What is one small act of feeling I can choose today? In my body, in my memory, or with another person? And if you feel ready, whisper your vow. It can be clumsy. It can be short. But let it be real. Because your heart has waited a long time for you to come back. And as you step onto this path, be present. Walk with honor. Follow the path.